YouTube, what is going on? I am back with another video. Today we got 8 draft busts you didn't know are in the G League. So as we know, every year somebody gonna be a bust. They gonna get drafted. They ain't gonna live up to their expectations. But today we got people that we don't know is in the G League. Let's get straight into it.
I think one of the cooler parts of the NBA G League is that you'll be watching a game and a guy will be checked in and you're like, is that Emmanuel Mudiay?
Oh God.
Today I'll be telling you about 8 former NBA lottery picks that are currently playing in the G League. We're not going to focus on players like James Wiseman, who's there for the sake of development. He's still young, but rather players who were drafted quite some time ago that found their ways to the G League. I'll let you know how they got there in the first place and what their chances are of making a comeback to the NBA. Quick spoiler here, but I'd say at least 5 of these guys will make their ways back up to the big league at some point soon. So stick around to find out who those 5 are. We're going to start with Jahlil Okafor, who's playing for the Mexico City Capitanes.
Bro, I don't know what happened to him, bro. He was eating at Duke, bro. Like, how the hell he get to the G League? That nigga was eating at Duke.
Pick of the 2014 NBA draft. And really, since then, he's been very productive during any stint that he's been given real court time in the NBA. However, there's always been 3 main issues with his game. He's never been a great jump shooter, or a passer, or a defender. Being a post-up heavy player isn't really that big of a problem in today's NBA, despite what some might say. If you can pass and play some defense as a post player, you're gonna find your way on the court. Jahlil, though, he never could. But I think what we're seeing him do in the G League is honestly kind of special. He's leading the league in field goal percentage. He's dropping 21 points per game. Like, he looks incredibly skilled as ever. I stand by the idea that if Jahlil never phased out of the league, he'd be a 25 point per game scorer at this point. Only issue would be that that team he's playing on probably wouldn't be winning any games. Even in the G League right now, he's averaging over 3 turnovers compared to 1.5 assists. Plus, he's blocking under 1 shot per game. So you're seeing those same issues that Jahlil has dealt with since going pro still be there at the G League level, which hopefully makes it clear why he's not in the NBA right now. But I can't deny that he's a very special and unique player watching these highlights.
Up
next, we have Jarrett Culver. Only 3 years ago in 2019, Jarrett Culver was the number 6 draft pick to the Timberwolves. His career in Minnesota lasted about 1.5 years. He's had a stint with Memphis since then, and he's now a member of the Atlanta Hawks, where he signed a 2-way contract with the team. Culver is honestly just a 3-ball away from making the league, but the shot for him it doesn't look too promising. That and he's a career 51% free throw shooter. But if he ever gets it down, he'll be a heck of an NBA player due to his defensive ability. Interestingly, the Hawks have been playing him quite a bit this season, probably to make use of his defense. I couldn't imagine another reason. He's only played 4 games in the G League this year, where he's been pretty solid, scoring about 20 a night, but it won't be until he starts knocking down his threes when he'll get a legit chance of making it to the NBA. Next, let's talk about Emmanuel Mudiay of the Iowa Wolves. Mudiay was the 7th pick to the Nuggets in the 2015 draft. What was always a bit strange about Mudiay is that when he was on, he could play like a star, but he was always a little bit too inconsistent. His low basketball IQ made him stagnate as a player. He couldn't see the court, and he never had the awareness that players of his talent level often do. He did have one pretty good stint with New York in 2019, but since then, he's been struggling to find an NBA home. He's now playing in the G League, where in 14 games in Iowa, he's playing pretty decent basketball, even making 50% of his shots. I think if he continues to play at this level and proves that he can get his shots to fall consistently and play make for his team, he'll get a shot as a 2nd or 3rd string point guard for some NBA roster out there. Next, we have Stanley Johnson of the Sioux Falls Skyforce. Stanley was picked right after Mudiay in 2018 at number 8 to the Pistons, and the thing that kept him from sticking in the league was the same thing that held back Jarrett Culver from earlier, was that he couldn't shoot the 3. With even a league average 3-ball, Johnson would probably have blossomed into one of the league's better role players due to his defense and slashing. But because that never came along, Johnson has been fighting for an NBA roster spot for the last 5 years. He was okay with LA last year, but his lack of shooting took away much of his impact. So he's back in the G League this season with the Sioux Falls Skyforce. The numbers aren't looking great. In fact, they're very bad, but he's only 3 games in, so they should get better from here. But even if they do, I'd be very surprised to see him back in the NBA anytime soon. Coming up next, we have Trey Burke of the Stockton Kings. I think that of all the players in this video, Burke and one other player we'll get to in a second have the best chance at reviving their NBA careers. Burke's downfall from a starting NBA point guard to G Leaguer is probably a combination of things. His lack of size at 6 feet flat made him a poor defender even when he tried, and his consistency as a scorer has always brought upon issues. But I think there's something Trey never got enough credit for, and that was his ability to control games with his playmaking. He averages a career 3.1 assists per game compared to only 1.1 turnovers, and that level of ball control and playmaking is undervalued, but can often lock in a backup point guard job for many guys. Burke's inefficiency as a scorer has also been mitigated throughout his career when he's not playing a really big role for a team. For example, in 2016 through 2020, he made 46% of his shots and 38% of his threes, and that spanned 184 games. He only played 17 minutes per game throughout that stretch, which I think is a perfect amount of playing time for a player of his playstyle. Currently in the G League, Burke is putting up good numbers, and while he's on the wrong side of 30 as of last month, he's still got plenty of prime basketball ahead of his career. And for a team looking for a backup pure point guard, Trey might be able to fill that role for them. Up next, we have Jerome.
Mr. Clean Multi-Surface Liquid Cleaner. Enjoy the long-lasting freshness
Ain't gonna
long
lie, I
after
don't know
the
some of
clean.
these players.
Jerome Robinson of the Santa Cruz Warriors. Robinson is probably the least well-known player in this video, but he was taken right before Michael Porter Jr., 13th overall in 2018 by the Clippers. But it became very clear and very early on that Robinson was not NBA ready. At 6'4", Robinson was always extremely inefficient and not a good three-point shooter. For that reason, he only lasted 113 NBA games and hasn't seen an NBA court in 2 years. While he played pretty well in the G League last year, scoring 20 points per game on 46% shooting, he's down to 14 tonight this year, and that's just not going to cut it for a guy looking to get back into the NBA. Up next, we have Chris Dunn of the Capital City Go-Go. The former number 5 pick back in 2016, Chris Dunn is with Trey Burke as one of the 2 players that I believe still has a healthy NBA career ahead. After playing just 4 games in the 2021 season, he actually got a shot with Portland last year where he looked good. He scored 8 points and dished out 6 assists per game to go along with a steal and a half. At this point, approaching 29 years old, expecting Dunn to develop a 3-point shot would be very optimistic, given that he hasn't improved since he was in college. But he's still the lockdown defender that he's always been, and that's worth mentioning. Plus, he's a pretty solid playmaker that takes good care of the ball. Those 2 things, on top of the fact that he's at least a smart shot taker, should make him a decent 2nd or 3rd string NBA point guard, especially if you surround him with ample shooting. He's playing pretty well with the Go-Go in the G League this year, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him get another opportunity in the NBA by the season's end. Coming up next, let's talk about Willie Cauley-Stein of the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, the number 6 pick back in 2015. The fact that Willie Cauley-Stein never figured it out in the NBA is kind of hard to fathom. Like, even though he's not that skilled, he's got size and athleticism, so his presence alone should make him somewhat of a rim protector and a decent lob option. But after watching him play in the G League this year, it's starting to be a bit more clear why he's not in the NBA right now. Firstly, despite his physical tools, he's averaging less than a block per game, which is terrible for a G League player. And I think that speaks to his motor more than anything, really. And then on offense, you're seeing that be the case even more. He's scoring 6 points per game while playing 25 minutes on average. Stein has been decent on a few different NBA teams, but he needs to be set up offensively in order for him to do anything. And defensively, he's not really the anchor there that people were expecting out of him when he came out of college, because he just doesn't look too interested on that end. For these reasons, I doubt Willie Cauley-Stein has much NBA basketball waiting for him. But those were 8 former NBA lottery picks that are currently playing in the G League. Hopefully you now know what led these players to the G League and have an idea as to which of them have a chance at making their ways back to the NBA. Thank you all for watching, have a blessed day guys, and I'll catch you all in the next one.
I ain't gonna count. I ain't know Stanley Johnson was in the G League. That nigga was back then, bro. He was something else. But YouTube, that's gonna be it for this video. If you're rocking with the channel, leave me a like, comment, subscribe. Catch me on the next one.